I wanted to spend some time talking about the Republican budget that passed the House that was originally authored by Representative Paul Ryan. Now, it sort of got to be known as the Ryan budget, but let's be very clear about this. It's no longer the Ryan budget, it's the Republican budget. This is why I say this. Out of all the Republicans in the House, and there are a lot of them over there, they run the place, you know, well over 100, every one of them voted for this budget, except 4. And on our side, not one Democrat. So let's be clear what a budget is. I served on the Budget Committee in the House and in the Senate. A budget is a very important document, whether you write it in your own home for your own family or you write it in the Senate of the United States. Why? Because in a budget, you're looking at all your resources and what your priorities are. And if you've got an issue with spending, which a lot of us have in our homes as well as having it right here, we know that, and certainly in my state, this is when the rubber meets the road and you have to say, what's important to us and what's less important? And the questions that you ask when you write a budget around here is, are our children important? And the answer is yes. Is it important that we have clean air to breathe? For me, absolutely. Should the water be pure? Should we make sure the environment is protected? Yes. Should we have a transportation system so we can move people and goods in this century and be the economic world leader? Yes. That's an investment. And we go through this budget piece by piece by piece, and we decide what is crucial. Of course, we need a strong military. Having said that, you know, some of us believe it's time to wind down the 2 wars that we're in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's costing us $12 billion a month. Mr. President, we can use those funds back home and still keep the kind of counterterrorism forces that we must keep, I believe, in the region, and bring that money home. You know, there's a lot of talk and a lot of words are thrown around about how do you balance a budget. And I have to say that I was fortunate enough to be here, thanks to the good people of my state, during the Clinton years. And we had similar issues. What were the issues? We were running in the red. We had a deficit. We had a debt. And we had to make sure the economy kept growing in a robust fashion. Do you know what we did? We sat around and said, these are the investments that are important to us. Today, I would argue it's still education, it's infrastructure, it's the environment, it's clean energy. These are the things that will move us forward. And over here are the issues where, you know, we look out and say, how can we get some revenue here? And one of the ways is what the Democrats said the other day. We said it's time to end corporate welfare for the biggest oil companies in the world, who are numbered, listen to this, 2, 3, and 4 on the Fortune 500, and are paying a lower tax rate than a nurse. Can I say that one more time? These big multinational oil companies who are charging us an arm and a leg are paying a higher tax rate than a nurse or a truck driver or a firefighter, an effective tax rate. That's the truth. But yet and still, the power of those special interests just looms over this chamber. And we were not able to end that corporate welfare and start to reduce this deficit. So there are places to go to reduce the deficit. I say start by eliminating corporate welfare for the people who don't need it. Start by asking billionaires and multimillionaires to pay their fair share. And then you don't have to hurt the people of this country, the great middle class of this country, the children. But every day in every way, that's what these battles are about. And so today I want to talk about the Republican budget and just look at it from the standpoint of Medicare and look at it from the standpoint of seniors, and more specifically, look at it from the standpoint of women on Medicare who make up, Mr. President, 56% of those on Medicare. Thank goodness the people in this country are tuning into this debate. They're tuning in. A lot of what we say here just flies over the country and no one really pays attention. It's complex, it's wonky, and the rest. This is an easy one. The Republican budget kills Medicare as we know it. Pretty simple. And people are asking themselves across this nation, do they want to kill Medicare as we know it? And Senator Mikulski, who's just arrived on the floor, has organized the women. And the next 5 minutes, I'll summarize what I said and turn it over to her. The Republican budget is a disaster for seniors, and for those on Medicare, it's worse than a disaster. Newt Gingrich said 15 years ago, let Medicare wither on the vine. That means starving it. The Republican budget just kills it outright. They lost patience with that idea. The Republican House-passed budget brings a devastating cost to seniors for Medicare. And let me show you the cost. Listen to this. Mr. President, the average income of senior women in this country in a year is $14,430. The health care cost that she will have to pay under the Ryan budget is almost all that money, $12,500. So the Ryan Republican budget devastates Medicare and says to a senior woman who makes $14,000 a year that her health care costs are going to cost her $12,000. What's she going to do with the other $2,000? Well, that would be probably, if she's fortunate, maybe 3 months' rent. In California, 1 month's rent. And then what does she do? Starve? I'll tell you what she'll do. She won't have health coverage. This is America under the Republican vision, going back to the days where our senior citizens had no dignity. I just can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. The woman earns $14,000. She's supposed to spend $12,000 on health care. Forget it. She's not going to do it. Who in their right mind would ask a woman, a senior woman who worked and played by the rules, who more than likely is a widow, who is living off Social Security, who in their right mind would ask her to face double the cost of health care that she now pays? I'll give you the answer. House Republicans. That is what they voted for. I am not making it up. This is what they voted for. And now you got people running away from it, running toward it. They don't know whether to go which way on it. But you know what? When we vote here, I hope they run far away from this, because this is a disaster. Let me show you another chart. This Republican budget ends Medicare as we know it, and it takes the benefit away from the senior and gives it straight to this guy. Who is this guy? He's very happy, and behind him is a chart, healthcare profits. And on the other side, it talks about the CEO of the company and his income. The House Republican budget takes the benefit away from the senior and gives it straight to the insurance company. Imagine. You know what this guy makes, the average CEO of a health insurance company? Mr. President, remember I told you the average woman, a senior woman, makes $14,000 a year. He makes $12.2 million a year. Oh, hooray for the Republicans. They're taking a benefit away from a woman who's lived by the rules, who's raised a family and stood by that family, and in her golden years, they take away her money and they give it to this fat cat over here. Makes me ill. But I better watch out, because the next thing you know, they'll take away my health care, and where will I go? Profits in these companies are up 41% from the previous year. You know, every once in a while, a political party stands for something that shows who they are. And I think we're seeing it here. They voted to continue corporate welfare for the biggest multinational oil companies who are just running to the bank, and their CEOs make more than this guy by a few million. And now this week, we're voting on their budget, which gives more to the CEO of an insurance company and steals it away from the average senior woman. And the last chart I'm going to show you is this one. There is a health care benefit in place for senior citizens who are on Medicare. By the way, I was very disturbed when we voted for it because in that bill, at the insistence of the Republicans, we told Medicare they can't negotiate for reasonable drug prices, and that's the way it went down. It was very sad. Having said that, we have a benefit for senior citizens now. And one of the leaders in trying to make sure that they get their full benefit has been Senator Stabenow, who's joining us now. And so I'll close with this. What we did in our budget, in our health care reform budget, is to say that seniors will now be covered for basically all of their health care costs. The Republican budget cancels that out, and they now say that seniors have to pay for all of their prescription drugs. Even with their insurance, there will be this period of time, the uncovered benefit called a donut hole. People call it different things. That means that immediately, if the Republican budget passed now, my seniors in California who are in that category getting help on their prescription drugs, 400,000 of them would have to pay $9,000 more over the next decade. $9,000 more for their prescription drugs. Mr. President, I've given you just a bit of the picture of what the Ryan budget does. I've just focused in, really, on the Medicare piece. That whole budget, the Republican budget, started by Ryan, embraced by the Republicans, is a disaster for seniors, for women, for children, and it is a hot time in the old town tonight for big CEOs of health insurance companies. That's what it is, and we should bring it down.